that that entails. I've been organizing with like especially poor and working class people for the last 3 decades, trying to fight for to try to change the system, and with a kind of understanding that the system seems like it's just designed to like grind us down and use us up and spit us out the other side, right? So that's been kind of my life work. I worked for 11 years at the Vancouver area network of drug users as the like main organizer there. So that was starting in 2009 to about 2020. So through some of the like big years of like really active campaigns there, fighting against the Olympics and fighting against like all the prison building that the Harper government did in the early 2010s. The kind of like criminalization of just like being on the streets that the VPD puts people through periodically, and I know you guys know that stuff about that. So yeah, so I was there for 11 years. It was 11 years of like some wins and some pretty great stuff that we're able to do at NANDU, but also lots of setbacks and defeats. And like all you guys, I lost a lot of people. I actually have, and was just admiring it, but I have a tattoo of 11 people that I lost that I loved in that 11 years. Obviously lost a lot more, but yeah, that was just kind of like a thing that I did when I left NANDU. And then I've been working in healthcare for a few years, but I recently started working again for the, like Anne said, the BC Coalition of Organizations by and for people who use drugs. And NANDU is a member of that coalition. So it's a coalition with about like 20 to 30 different members throughout the province. So if you name a place, there's probably a group there or near there. So, you know, Victoria and Comox and Vancouver, Surrey, all through the Lower Mainland, but then also like Nelson and Castlegar and up into the Kootenays, Kelowna, Kamloops. There's some in the north, so there's one in Quesnel, and there's a group in Terrace. So kind of, you know, pretty good coverage of the province, and bringing together all of those like mostly small groups like this of just, you know, broke ass people like us who are trying to make a change in the world and try to group us together and make a difference. So that's the idea behind the coalition. And we've kind of been working on what we call like a basis of unity. So what we unite on as a coalition, trying to get, like when I applied for the job and was interviewed, I was like, you know, we need to like decide what are real, like, what are the things that really unite us and we're willing to fight for. And then we need to build some infrastructure. So we need to have like some organization. We need to have like a website and a Facebook page and like some ways to like project ourselves in the world. And then we need to pick a fight to try to actually change some of this shit. So we need a campaign to actually try to change drug policy in this province, you know, towards ending the drug war ultimately as our goal. So, but the thing that we've been working on lately is like this basis of unity, and it's basically got 2 points right now. So the first point is ending the drug war. And so what do you got, when I say end the drug war, what do you guys think? What's entailed in that? Yeah.
Well, like maybe like setting free everybody who's in jail for long-term penalties, like basically serving useless sentences.
Yeah, absolutely. That's part of what we put in there too, and we call it. My friend Dave Murray, who's on this tattoo, one of the people that I lost, who's a good friend of Anne's too, said it's reparations, right?
Yeah, reparations.
Like they waged an unjust war against people.
And should be paid and,
yeah.
And, you know what I mean? And
exactly.
You're gonna try to get something like that.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So freedom, and then also compensation for people who
reform back into like civilization.
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And for families who've had children abducted unjustly on the basis of your drug users, so we're taking your fucking kids away, like all of that shit, there needs to be like.
Well, yeah, like, you know, if everybody had a happy family, there would be no social services.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What else is entailed in ending the war on drugs?
About getting people what they need, when they need, into testing a bunch of different drugs.
Exactly.
For whatever reasons they want.
Yeah. So
Can you repeat
access, what we say is access to a clean, safe supply of the substances that people need.
And not be used as like try this drug now. Let's
Yeah.
try this one. Let's try this one.
Yeah, exactly. Not your doctor basically like looking at the prescription pad and ticking you into one box or another. Yeah, good point. What else?
Legalizing drugs.
Yeah, so we say rescinding the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act. So the big piece of federal legislation that criminalizes people for the use of specific substances.
I know,
Yeah.
probably like try to rejuvenate half the lost crop field in Iraq too.
Right.
That was the number one reason why they went in there, was to
Right.
get rid of heroin off the street.
Yeah,
That didn't
yeah.
work.
So there's an
Oh,
inter,
yeah.
yeah,
Think about it, there's no
Yeah,
fucking
but then they got,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, then they brought in fentanyl, which
Fentanyl.
would basically fucking
Killed
right-
everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
population control, right?
yeah. Yeah, there's an international
And
dimension
China's
too.
taking over basically, like they
Yeah.
weren't getting a piece of anything, basically now China pumps it all out from the lab, right? Like little tiny grains of sand come in.
Well, supposedly, according to Trump at least, Canada is a net exporter of fentanyl, so we're
Oh,
doing,
wow.
we're doing it domestically now. So,
It's true.
the other thing that we have in there is access. So on the one side, access to substances, a safe supply of substances for people who need it, but also access to detox and evidence-based, like real treatment for people who want it, right? So like both sides of the coin. Yeah. So that's great. You guys hit like all of the major points that we have in ending the drug war. And then the second thing that we talk about is drug user liberation. Now, what would that be? That's a little bit different from just ending the drug war. Yeah, bro.
Well, proper education on like, don't do this or it'll fuck your life up.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I don't let don't do drugs or
Yeah.
don't let the drugs do you,
Yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah.
just moderate consumptions, I guess.
Man, you're on fire. That's like that's like the ending point of what we talk about at drug user liberation is like, and I think Ann actually brought this up in the meeting, is like maximizing the benefits of these drugs that are currently illicit for pleasure, for like expansion of consciousness. People use it for spiritual and religious purposes, like maximizing all of those benefits and not having drugs be mainly about just like killing the pain and surviving the shitty situations that people have been in, right? Which unfortunately is a lot of how they're used in.
And decriminalizing,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. We also talk about how it's connected to how the drug war is connected to colonialism, and we need to understand like indigenous people's right to self-determination as part of the process of ending of drug user liberation. We talk about ending like the whole system of child apprehension and the whole child welfare system that really targets poor people, and then just generally like the part of the reason that we have the war on drugs is this profound inequality in society where some people can barely get by and other people have way more than they need, right? And that's part of what we have to deal with if we're talking about real liberation. Does that make sense? Kind of? Yeah. So those are kind of like the big points of our basis of unity. And then the other thing we've been doing in the coalition is talking about strategy. Like if we want to end the war on drugs, what's our actual strategy? You understand what I mean by strategy? It's like, how do we get there? Because we could all take out picket signs and go march in the streets right now. That wouldn't be a bad thing. We maybe could like demand something real, but they don't largely give a shit whether we march in the streets. So how are we gonna build a movement that can actually make the types of changes that we wanna make? I'm gonna talk about that a little bit later, but first I wanted to open it up to hear from you guys about like what issues you're facing on the ground here in Nanaimo as NANDU. Like what are the big things that you guys have
12
been
different
struggling with?
bylaw groups
Okay,
that are like kicking us out everywhere.
okay,
Little red no trespassing signs on all the windows.
okay.
That OPS even has them, and they're
Oh,
also too,
Jesus.
that they're all paying into
Right,
for that new bylaw.
Yeah.
That makes their property go to the edge of the sidewalk. That's
okay,
how come they can kick us out in front of all these businesses, it's cause that little red sticker.
okay.
And I was surprised to see one in front of OPS.
And if
It's
they
a
have,
big one. It's like
and
this
if they
fucking big.
post
I've never
it,
seen one this big.
then police are enforcing that the sidewalk is part of
The
their
sidewalk is part of
property.
their property. That's what those little red stickers are in all the stores.
It's gross.
Stands there, front of the road.
It stands there for the road.
That's crazy.
Nobody else has a big fucking one. It's just big.
Never even seen
I've
it.
never seen one that big in any store window.
Yeah, I've never heard of that. That's wild.
No, me neither.
Huh. Yeah, it seems like they're just making
Every
making
store-
up the
every
law
store-
just
every
for
store
the
except for Reds has
nine.
one. Every store but Reds has one.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, they'll find us when we're like by ourselves, and then
Right.
rough us up and give us a bunch of fines illegally.
Yeah.
Just do whatever. And then what do? You fight it for 6 months.
Yeah.
Probably don't even do anything at that point.
Right.
The dump truck that
It
drives
builds up,
around in the
then you get
morning.
your ID stolen, then you psycho.
I know the brother back here had something to say. He looks like maybe he's sleeping now. What other kinds of issues are folks struggling with, dealing with? Is there adequate access to like overdose prevention site or harm reduction services?
No, it closes at 9 p.m.
Right.
Who stops doing drugs at 9 p.m.?
Right.
That's when I start.
It's when you start.
I don't start at 11 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
for sure. I'm just going to bed then.
Yeah,
And it's gotten to the point now that not having a safe consumption site at nighttime. Like I found somebody in the Dairy Queen the other night, unresponsive. They didn't even know he was in there. They were going to lock the door with the guy in there. They had no idea he was there. And then after I spent 100 and whatever, they tell me that our kind are not welcome there. And what kind is that? I'm pretty sure I'm human.
yeah.
And being human, you're allowed to go to public places and exercise your freedom of living. And they physically, it was the gentleman's bag, they physically kicked him out of the store and said, it's not our problem, we don't care. And I said, well, it most definitely is your problem, this is your establishment, it's under your table, so they kicked him out. And like if I hadn't seen his feet, who knows what could have happened, and he's got a baby on the way. Like, that's sad. That society is so judgmental and uneducated in the actual opioid crisis and the fentanyl crisis that they just group everybody into one. And we're all very different individuals. We are people. We have a voice, and we need to be heard, not just pushed aside and swept under the rug.
That's what I heard somebody say housing over on this side of the room. What does it cost to get a 1-bedroom apartment in Nanaimo?
Oh, 100
$1,200 and up.
Well, even affordable housing is 1,500.
Right. Yeah, yeah.
I get 1,800 for mine.
They've just redefined affordable housing to mean non-affordable housing.
Plus all.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Unaffordable.
Yeah. Yeah.
1,000 a room,
The
that's
same one bedroom that was $600 and now it's 15.
Yeah. And have people have people dealt with evictions and like rent evictions? Is that a thing here? Or what's it look like?
It's not really. No, they.
It's a distant
they
memory.
move out of the building.
Right, so that's a
Yeah,
rent
they gave
eviction.
me $5,000 and we got them out of it.
Right, right,
So that was pretty good.
Yeah.
And I had a beautiful apartment.
Yeah.
2-bedroom, water view. It was really nice.
so did you find another place to
Oh,
go?
yeah. I mean, a $700 bachelor now.
Okay.
Nice.
Nanaimo's tough to get around too, so where you're living, it makes a big difference. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you gotta not mind walking in the night.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is when people do get a place, that they can't have guests and, this over-controlled
Yeah.
housing.
Yeah.
So the little bit of that, and people are so lucky to get it, and then they get kicked out. It's harder to get a place and get a job. Like if you're going to apply to get an apartment, you have to give them more documentation
Oh,
than
yeah.
you have
Oh,
give
yeah.
to someone who's going to be giving you a
No, I know.
job.
It's like,
Credit check.
tell me who
Or
your-
marry you.
Tell me
Your
who
wife
your-
doesn't usually check your criminal record.
Tell me
to
who your
say-
landlord 15 years was ago and
Yeah,
give me
yeah.
his phone number and remember the address you were
Yeah,
living
yeah,
at.
exactly, yeah. And for how
That's
long you
crazy.
stayed too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even if they find out that you're living on welfare, you're done.
Oh, yeah.
And how could you ever get off welfare if you
Yeah.
couldn't get established? You know what I mean? It's a very,
It's
very.
basic rented story, that's all they say, when
Yeah.
you figure out welfare, yeah, I just got rented.
Yeah. Yeah. They just
Yeah, that's always the downfall, so you just mention welfare, that it's
Well,
all of a sudden the place is rented, or,
There is a
or
way
there's some
around,
problems, I still have to fix things up or something, and solve.
there is a way around shelter forms um,
From
the
welfare.
ministry.
from the ministry.
Yeah.
Is you just do a landlord tenancy agreement, you print it online, you bring it to them, they fill that out.
Oh,
They
yeah.
have no idea where the money's coming from them.
Mm.
And that is one option.
That's a good idea,
good too.
yeah, that's a
And
good option.
anyone that's interested in that, I will help anyone anytime.
Because different, like in the Vancouver, I was on welfare and I'm sort of, whatever. They wouldn't give. They used to always just give me my full check, and then I just wrote my check to the co-op for my whatever. And then I was off welfare. I went back on, and I said, "Yeah, just give me my full check. I'll pay." And they said, "No, policy in this neighborhood, no matter who you are, is we send the check directly to the landlord." Well, the landlord then knows because it's a welfare check.
Yeah.
That's the shelter allowance. So those kind of things have caused, and I don't know if they know how much damage that kind of policy chart causes.
Also, with that, like getting the rent paid